Welcome to today's scripture reading with the Ayaba, Yashar-Jasher Chapter 37. And in the 105th year of the life of Yakov, that is the 9th year of Yaakov's dwelling with his children in the land of Canaan, he came from Padan Aram. And in those days Yaakov journeyed with his children from Chevron, and they went and returned to the city of Shechem, they and all belonging to them, and they dwelt there. For the children of Yaakov obtained good and fat pasture land for their cattle in the city of Shechem, the city of Shechem having then been rebuilt, and there were in it about 300 men and women. And Yaakov and his children and all belonging to him dwelt in the part of the field which Yaakov had bought from Chamor, the father of Shechem, when he came from Padan Aram, before Shimon and Levi had smitten the city. And all those kings of the Canaanim and Amorim that surrounded the city of Shechem heard that the sons of Yaakov had again come to Shechem and dwelt there. And they said, Shall the sons of Yaakov the ivory again come to the city and dwell therein, after that they have smitten its inhabitants and driven them out? Shall they now return and also drive out those who are dwelling in the city, or slay them? And all the kings of Canaan again assembled, and they came together to make war with Yaakov and his sons. And Yeshu, king of Tapnach, sent also to all his neighboring kings, to Elon, king of Gaash, and to Ihuri, king of Shiloh, and Parathion, king of Khazar, and Suki, king of Sartan, and to Lavan, king of Beit Coron, and to Shavir, king of Athnema, saying, Come up to me and assist me, and let us smite Yaakov the ivory, and his sons, and all belonging to him, for they are again come to Shechem to possess it, and to slay its inhabitants as before. And all these kings assembled together, and came with all their camps, a people exceedingly plentiful, like the sand upon the seashore. And they were all opposite to Tapnach. And Yeshu, king of Tapnach, went forth to them with all his army, and he encamped with them opposite to Tapnach, without the city. And all these kings they divided into 7 divisions, being 7 camps against the sons of Yaakov. And they sent a declaration to Yaakov and his sons, saying, Come you all forth to us, that we may have an interview together in the plain, and revenge the cause of the men of Shechem, whom you slew in their city. And you will now again return to the city of Shechem, and dwell therein, and slay its inhabitants as before. And the sons of Yaakov heard this, and their anger was kindled exceedingly at the words of the kings of Canaan. And 10 of the sons of Yaakov hastened and rose up, and each of them girt on his weapons of war, and there were 102 of their servants with them, equipped in battle array. And all these men, the sons of Yaakov, with their servants, went toward these kings, and Yaakov their father was with them, and they all stood upon the heap of Shechem. And Yaakov prayed to Yehuda for his sons, and he spread forth his hands to Yehuda, and he said, O Elohim, you are El Shaddai, you are our Father, you did form us, and we are the works of your hands. I pray you, deliver my sons through your mercy from the hand of their enemies, who are this day coming to fight with them, and save them from their hand. For in your hand is power and might to save the few from the many. And give unto my sons and your servants strength of heart and might to fight with their enemies, to subdue them and make their enemies fall before them. And let not my sons and their servants die through the hands of the children of Canaan. But if it seems good in your eyes to take away the lives of my sons and their servants, take them in your great mercy through the hands of your ministers, that they may not perish this day by the hands of the kings of the Amorim. And when Yaakov ceased praying to Yahuwah, the earth shook from its place, and the suns darkened, and all these kings were terrified, and a great consternation seized them. And Yahuwah hearkened to the prayer of Yaakov, and Yahuwah impressed the hearts of all the kings and their hosts with the terror and awe of the sons of Yaakov. For Yahuwah caused them to hear the voice of chariots and the voice of mighty horses from the sons of Yaakov, and the voice of a great army accompanying them. And these kings were seized with great terror at the sons of Yaakov. And while they were standing in their quarters, behold, the sons of Yaakov advanced upon them with 112 men, with a great and tremendous shouting. And when the kings saw the sons of Yaakov advancing toward them, they were still more panic-struck, and they were inclined to retreat from before the sons of Yaakov as at first, and not to fight with them. But they did not retreat, saying, it would be a disgrace to us thus twice to retreat from before the Ivrim. And the sons of Yaakov came near and advanced against all these kings and their armies. And they saw, and behold, it was a very mighty people, numerous as the sand of the sea. And the sons of Yaakov called unto Yahuwah and said, help us, O Yahuwah, help us and answer us, for we trust in you. And let us not die by the hands of these uncircumcised men, who this day have come against us. And the sons of Yaakov girt on their weapons of war, and they took in their hands each man his shield and his javelin, and they approached to battle. And Yehuda, the son of Yaakov, ran first before his brethren, and 10 of his servants with him, and he went toward these kings. And Yeshu, king of Tapnach, also came forth first with his army before Yehuda. And Yehuda saw Yeshu with his army coming toward him, and Yehuda's wrath was kindled, and his anger burned within him. And he approached to battle, in which Yehuda ventured his life. And Yeshu and all his army were advancing toward Yehuda, and he was riding upon a very strong and powerful horse. And Yeshu was a very valiant man, and covered with iron and brass from head to foot. And while he was upon the horse, he shot arrows with both hands from before and behind, as was his manner in all his battles. And he never missed the place to which he aimed his arrows. And when Yeshu came to fight with Yehuda, and was darting many arrows against Yehuda, Yahuwah bound the hand of Yeshu, and all the arrows that he shot rebounded upon his own men. And notwithstanding this, Yeshu kept advancing toward Yehuda to challenge him with the arrows, but that distance between them was about 30 cubits. And when Yehuda saw Yeshu darting forth his arrows against him, he ran to him with his wrath excited might. And Yehuda took up a large stone from the ground, and its weight was 60 shekels. And Yehuda ran toward Yeshuv, and with the stone struck him on his shield, that Yeshuv was stunned with the blow, and fell off from his horse to the ground. And the shield burst asunder out of the hand of Yeshuv, and through the force of the blow sprang to the distance of about 15 cubits, and the shield fell before the second camp. And the kings that came with Yeshu saw at a distance the strength of Yehuda, the son of Yakov, and what he had done to Yeshu, and they were terribly afraid of Yehuda. And they assembled near Yeshu's camp, seeing his confusion. And Yehuda drew his sword and smote 42 men of the camp of Yeshuv, and the whole of Yeshu's camp fled before Yehuda, and no man stood against him. And they left Yeshuv and fled from him, and Yeshuv was still prostrate upon the ground. And Yeshu, seeing that all the men of his camp had fled from him, hastened and rose up with terror against Yehuda, and stood upon his legs opposite Yehuda. And Yeshu had a single combat with Yehuda, placing shield toward shield. And Yeshu's men all fled, for they were greatly afraid of Yehuda. And Yeshu took his spear in his hand to strike Yehuda upon his head. But Yehuda had quickly placed his shield to his head against Yeshu's spear, so that the shield of Yehuda received the blow from Yeshu's spear, and the shield was split in two. And when Yehuda saw that his shield was split, he hastily drew his sword and smote Yeshuv at his ankles, and cut off his feet, that Yeshuv fell upon the ground, and the spear fell from his hand. And Yehuda hastily picked up Yeshuv's spear, with which he severed his head and cast it next to his feet. And when the sons of Yakov saw what Yehuda had done to Yeshuv, they all ran into the ranks of the other kings. And the sons of Yakov fought with the army of Yeshuv and the armies of all the kings that were there. And the sons of Yakov caused 15,000 of their men to fall, and they smote them as if smiting at gourds, and the rest fled for their lives. And Yehuda was still standing by the body of Yeshuv, and stripped Yeshuv of his coat of mail. And Yehuda also took off the iron and brass that was about Yeshuv. And behold, 9 men of the captains of Yeshuv came along to fight against Yehuda. And Yehuda hastened and took up a stone from the ground, and with it smote one of them upon the head, and his skull was fractured, and the body also fell from the horse to the ground. And the 8 captains that remained, seeing the strength of Yehuda, were greatly afraid, and they fled. And Yehuda with his 10 men pursued them, and they overtook them and slew them. And the sons of Yaakov were still smiting the armies of the kings, and they slew many of them. But those kings daringly kept their stand and their captains, and did not retreat from their places. And they exclaimed against those of their armies that fled from before the sons of Yaakov, but none would listen to them, for they were afraid of their lives, lest they should die. And And all the sons of Yakov, after having smitten the armies of the kings, returned and came before Yehuda. And Yehuda was still slaying the 8 captains of Yeshu and stripping off their garments. And Levi saw Elon, king of Gaash, advancing toward him with his 14 captains to smite him, but Levi did not know it for certain. And Elon with his captains approached nearer, and Levi looked back and saw that battle was given him in the rear. And Levi ran with 12 of his servants, and they went and slew Elon and his captains with the edge of the sword. Thank you for watching today's scripture reading with the Ayaba, Yashar-Jasher Chapter 37. And with that, I will leave you with Shalom.